Alright guys, so it's a pretty gloomy day out, so I figured what we'll do a little bit this weekend is see if we can get this John Deere 2010 gas motor unstuck. We may or may not be able to. So the story on this tractor, if you haven't seen this tractor before on the channel, is we bought it with a locked up engine, unrunning, and it had a loader on it when we bought it for, I think it was $1,000. We bought it because we took the loader off of the tractor to put it on my neighbor's tractor, which is also a 2010 gas, and his tractor runs perfectly fine, of course. We kind of rehabbed that loader to kind of surprise him and put it on his John Deere tractor. So the idea the whole time was to at least get this running, operational, and maybe just put it back up for sale for $1,500 or so. So that we didn't have a huge cost in getting that loader put on his tractor. So we're going to see what we can do. So these have been, since I got this tractor, so way back to when the loader was finished, that video and everything, since we got this tractor, the cylinders, the spark plugs have been out. In fact, I don't even know where I put the spark plugs. The spark plugs have been out. There's been ATF in the cylinders. I've drained the motor oil. I had a hard time getting the pan off. We'll revisit that today because I wanted to look at the underside. The good thing is there's no oil plug in it, and I've got some mixture of ATF and PB Blaster on the floor. So the good thing is that, at least not all the cylinders are seized. There is some ATF PB Blaster that came out of the drain pan. So I guess that's a positive note. But anyway, it's been sitting for like 2 months like this. We're going to really not spend a whole lot of time moving on the crankshaft. We're going to go just a little bit back and forth, and if we don't get any budging, I'm not going to wrench down hard on that. I tried that initially when I first got the tractor, and it did not work. The starter we have off here as well. It looks like it's going to be real hard to get leverage because there is like a shroud on it. It looks like it's gonna be real hard to get leverage on it, but we're gonna try to get leverage on it. We might try the flywheel. Pretty much 2 hours is my limit. If I wrench on this thing for 2 hours and it doesn't break loose using the flywheel or the crank harmonic balancer, what would normally be a harmonic balancer, that crank bolt in the front, if we don't get it out, if we don't get it loosened with those two things, then I'm immediately not messing with it anymore. I will just start taking this off, taking the valve cover off, taking the head off, and impound on the cylinders. All right, I forgot that I told the neighbor's kid I would go fix his handlebars on his bike, so that's what I had to go do. So we're just gonna go back and start cranking on this and see what happens. I haven't got a single budge out of it. I'm not a huge fan of this mechanism. I'd rather just take the head off. It just doesn't seem to have enough shock force. It's got force, but it doesn't have like quick strike. You just can't get out of a pry bar. That's what I don't really like about pry bar. I'm gonna grab a wrench and try the front bolt. I'm not gonna go too far on this before I take the head off. But as long as it's soaked, it just seems that that's what's the inevitable is anyway. And I'm not moving the pulley at all. I'm just moving the bolt. I've been doing this for about 20 minutes, and I'm not going to risk over tightening this bolt. And if I go lefty-loosey, I can move it, but of course, again, I'm not moving the pulley, I'm just moving the bolt. So, I don't believe we're going to be getting it off that way. At this point, what we've tried is prying on the flywheel and running the bolt directions on the pulley in the front. And that's not gonna, we're moving the bolt, we're not moving the pulley. So we're just tightening the bolt and loosening the bolt. That's not really what I want. So we've put as much time into this thing as I'm willing to put into it using those two mechanisms. The next thing up is to grab my hat, take the top hood off, and take the valve cover off, etc. And start getting into this so that A, we can see better, B, so that we can give the motor a little bit more shock force on the top of the pistons. What I'm going to work on now, and I'm not going to run the footage completely through because I think it's would be a little boring to just watch me disassemble this, but once I've got this hood off, we're going to call it a hood. I'm sure there's a real name for it, but we're going to call it the hood. Then I'll bring the footage back when we start getting more to the engine components. So some of these valves are really stuck, and so I'm going to not so nicely try to get them unstuck. For instance, this one, you know, this has no tint. This spring is stuck down. These are okay. That one's stuck down too much, so I'm gonna see what I can. I'm gonna focus on tapping these a little bit, and I might not be as gentle as other people, but at this point, it's a junk tractor to me, you know. So I'm just gonna. That one popped up a little bit. I need something on that to hit. That valve is really stuck. That one's really okay. That one needs to come down a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna put some penetrating oil on that. This is just what I have. It's actually not PB Blaster I used on my PB. let that sit there a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, well, we have all that soaking on the head. I'm gonna start working on this exhaust manifold. I'm just prepping. I need to see the top of the cylinder. I can't just get the valve unstuck, and I gotta see it. So I've already actually been working over here before I reposition the camera, but I got these grip tight sockets. I really like these sockets. In fact, I go to those sockets as soon as I feel the very first slip on a 5-point socket. I switch to these. And to be honest, I've never not gotten a bolt out since I've been using them. And no, they're not sponsoring this video. I just really like them. I really like them a lot. I've got the Irwin. I don't have them in here to show you, but I've got the Irwin extractors too, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good as well. The fact that this is so easy, and they were not hard to get to begin with. I don't know. Too many signs of someone being in this motor. Really. I've got a job to go quote in a little bit. It's cleaning up an old abandoned property. Outside of it, you know, like the brush cutting and stuff, and I think that'll be fun and real good content, so stay tuned on that. That'll probably end up happening. I'm usually real competitive on that stuff because it's fun, and it's just fun. I enjoy doing it. So one of two things happened. Either someone got this running and then did something very bad to it, or someone's been into this and knows that it's not worth fixing. Because some of these gaskets look replaced, and I don't know who would dump so much money into gaskets, because the gaskets on these machines are not cheap. I think a gasket set was $350, $400, and while that's not the biggest chunk of change, right? Like it's a lot of money on a tractor that you don't know the real condition of. Is basically what I'm trying to get at and say. Okay, so we haven't really got any of these valves unstuck. We're going to go ahead and I've already loosened these. We also took off the coolant pipe that was up here and the exhaust manifold that was down here, and I've loosened these. The GoPro battery died. I've got it tethered to my battery now. I just want to see what the head looks like, and I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of these out, and we'll see what we got. Alright, so I would say that those two right there are our cylinders that are stuck. And this head gasket doesn't even look that bad. In fact, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's a concoction of ATF and PB. So our bleed through was happening on these walls, which is good. But now we've got to see if we can get these to budge at all. All right, so what I've got here, I've got some diesel in these cylinders, and I'm just trying to heat them up. So I want to give a little update of where we're at on this. I let PB Blaster sit overnight. The PB Blaster drained out of this cylinder, and this cylinder, which before it was only draining out of the middle two, so I know we're making progress. PB Blaster still is not draining out of this cylinder closest to the radiator, which I believe is number 1, but I don't know that for a fact. But anyway, it's either 1 or 4. It's not draining out of that. So I've burned a lot in there for heat. I've shot PB Blaster up the bottom wall. The problem is the wall's kind of rusted on the bottom side of the cylinder. So I've banged on it a lot with this. In fact, it's beveled. I've banged on it a lot with that. I can't seem to get it loose. What we're gonna try is not exactly recommended, but I'm gonna go get the skid loader and pallet forks, and we're gonna push it. It's in gear. So we're gonna push it and see if we can spin the crankshaft. We very well may break something, but at this point, I mean, it's been setting in ATF for a long time, and it's day 2 of us trying to unstick it, and I feel like we did make some progress. Like I said, one of those cylinders we did get unstuck. It might just take more force than I have. Tried the crankshaft again. I've tried the flywheel again. It's not working, so we're gonna try to use the wheels to spin it. And like I said, we might break something or we might break it loose. But at this point, I've pretty much I've done everything that I can do, that I can think to do. Heat and cool and penetrating oil and I've done what I can do. So and the thing is a lot of this looks like, let me show you this head gasket. Does this look like a 50-year-old head gasket or 60 Stractor? Yeah, 60-year-old head gasket. This does not look like a 60-year-old head gasket. Someone has been into this engine, and I don't know if something happened, or if they let it, they built it with good intentions and then they got a bigger tractor. I don't know. No idea. But everything mechanically looks fine except for the rust on that wall. So on that one cylinder we're having problems with. So, and to be honest, I may have even gotten it to move a little bit. I'm not sure, but we're gonna push it, pull it back and forth, and it's either gonna spin or it's gonna break. Okay. We're gonna break, or we're gonna go free. have less turn there. We'll see. I am not quite ready to throw in the towel. It's definitely kicking my ass. It may totally end up jumped. I'm gonna try one or two less things. There's a couple techniques people say to put a Zerk fitting in the spark plug hole and insert grease. There's people who say use vinegar and pressure washer in the spark plug hole. So I've put the head gasket back on. Put the head back on, and the next thing we're going to do, and we're only going to do that one cylinder that's stuck, and we're just going to try to force it down, and either something's going to break or we're going to ooze out of the head gasket and bust the head gasket, something. So alright guys, I'm afraid we are on our final straw. I've put the head back on, and please don't judge my welding. This was literally done in 3 minutes. Actually less than that, but this is a busted spark plug with a nut welded on top of it, with a cross-threaded Zerk in the nut because it's the only nut I could find. I don't have any MPT nuts, and then the Zerk is welded. The Zerk shaft is welded, and it's really gross. But what we're gonna do is put this in spark plug cylinder 1. We're gonna hook on this grease fitting, and we're gonna pump the cylinder full of grease. And either this is going to blow, or the head gasket is going to blow, or it's going to force the piston down. It's the last thing we're going to try. It's something I would not try unless you have all others, things have been exerted. But we're going to give this a shot. This is still hot, so I'm going to put this in the spark plug hole, and then I will bring you over here. So I'm putting this in with an 11 millimeter on the Zerk fitting because the nasty weld doesn't allow me to get a spark plug wrench on it anymore, spark plug socket on it anymore, but this will be okay. I've also removed all of the rods, so the valves are closed, and we're gonna go get the grease gun. Okay, our tube of grease is empty. I'm going to clean up the nipple of that Zerk again. We're going to go get another tube of grease. I kind of also want to stand a little bit away because, something's got to give. And whatever it is could become a projectile. So I kept breaking off of this, so I got the locking style. We're going to try to finish this up with the style that locks on to the grease Zerk, and we'll see what happens. So this actually worked very well. It's Flexzilla. Got it at Tractor Supply. That worked very well. I don't think we really moved the cylinder down any. What I actually see on the other side is we've got some grease coming out of the exhaust port. I took all these rods out and tapped the valves closed as much as I could get them to seat. And we're just bleeding through the valve. I'm not making any sort of metal plate for this. I'm going to pull the head back off, and we're going to try one last idea before we decide that we're going to junk this. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on taking the head off. Alright guys, unfortunately we're going to have to call it. We've tried soaking in ATF for a long time, penetrating oil setting for months with no drainage at all in this cylinder. When we first pulled into this, we had two cylinders in the middle draining. The cylinder on the closest to the steering wheel was not draining, and the cylinder at the radiator side was not draining. We managed to get the cylinder by the steering wheel undone, but the exhaust valve was open on the cylinder 1, and this had a straight stack with nothing covering it. Rainwater came in. You know, typically they say that if you have rust on the cylinder walls, anything more than scale, that it's done for. And I wanted to give it a go anyway, but there was just too much rust between the piston and the cylinder sleeves, and we have really beaten on this thing. At this time, not including when we first got it when we were working on the loader, I filled up all those cylinders and everything, and I would check on them periodically. But in terms of just in the last week and a half, I've spent 3 full days, you know, disassembling this, you know, trying various tasks to get this unstuck, starting with the least aggressive, moving to the most aggressive, and at some point in time you have to call it. And you know, time is money, and this tractor is only worth $3,000 or $4,000 finished. And we paid $1,000 for it, and we got a good loader off of it. Well, not a good loader, but we salvaged a loader off of it. Salvage yard give us $350 for this. If you see it in any of the backgrounds of any of the videos I made, my neighbor is considering giving me that $350 and keeping it for parts, because he has the same model. I don't know if that's going to happen or if it's going to go to the junkyard, but either way, we're getting $350 for it. But at some point in time, you have to cut your losses. And in this case, that's what I'm doing. You know, we've got other projects to do, and I'm not going to sit around and keep working on this. Very likely that cylinder would never have compression if we got it undone. So it's just not worth it. So I really appreciate you watching. I hope some of the techniques we tried might give you some ideas. If you have a motor that maybe is less stuck, that might be salvageable. In this case, this one was not, but we appreciate you watching, and we hope that you like and subscribe, and we'll continue bringing more videos of things we've done on the homestead. Thank you.